it. It's one random
How's that,
something,
Becky?
and I'm like,
Is that good?
Who are my real friends? Yeah, I hear it in one ear, which is all I need, really.
Okay.
I hear it in my left ear.
Put her on here. Is there a better place to put her? Put her on program
91.9. Just heard from Plumb in my arms, and it's so awesome to have her actually here in the studio with us. Thanks for joining us.
Ooh.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
And
We're really excited.
The trip here was okay. Not too much traffic to
No,
get to.
it was good.
Awesome. We look forward to your concert tonight in Vienna. How is the tour going?
It's going really well. It's like a slumber party that never ends. It's just everybody gets along. Everybody just loves to be together, and we're all kind of, we're really like-minded. Mike's Chair and Josh Wilson and us are all about hope, and there's just no competition. Everybody's different too, so it's all very different. Where you're hearing Mike's Chair, that's a band like through and through, and Josh Wilson, who's like a one-man band, which is really entertaining in its own way as well. And then Plumb has a very different. Not only is it female fronted, but we're a lot more electronic and different. So it's just a great variety, and everybody gets along. It's pretty cool. So yeah.
Now, okay, so I was going to ask you inspiration behind the song "Need You Now." It's been a lot of people have obviously been touched by that song, and hearing a little bit about your story behind it, I think makes it even connect with people more. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
No, not at all. This song has become a prayer, and I think a lot of times when you think of prayer, you think get quiet and go to a secret place and do your thing and tell all your praises and petitions to God. This is actually different. It's a prayer that says you can scream your head off and just let it out at the top of your lungs and say, I need help. Like, help me right now.
Yeah.
And so it was birthed out of having anxiety and panic attacks since I was 13, and just kind of feeling like the only real source of hope, no matter how bad it got, was that God promised me he would never leave me and that he would always be there, and to just keep breathing in and out. And so no matter how long the pain lasted, I at least had this peace inside that ultimately God was in control and God was present. And so for the song to kind of connect with people on all different levels doesn't surprise me, because whether you struggle with anxiety or panic attacks, as I do, or if you're just in a place where you need him right now more than ever, it's a song that gives you that permission to cry out and say, I need you right now, help. And I think most humanity relates to that. And so that's my thoughts. So.
Absolutely. We really appreciate your openness and your honesty with, sharing all that stuff. A lot of us deal with stuff, but we don't like to talk about it sometimes. But talking about it can make such a change in somebody's life. So.
Oh, man, if keeping quiet, something grows. I mean, I just think, like, when you go to take a lid off of sour cream that you're not really sure is good or not, it's like the longer you leave it covered up and hidden, it's going to get worse.
Right.
And so just speak something, even if you're by yourself and you just say it out loud or you write it out in a journal, that alone is a huge healer. And then if you take it a step further and you talk to a close friend or your spouse or to a pastor or to a counselor, like, the more verbal and vocal and open about something, whatever it is you can be, it's more sunshine is being put on that. And I guess you think about, the things hidden that grow in the dark that are disgusting, and that once sunlight gets to them, they change. Their actual form changes. And so that vitamin D, if you think of hope as that, it really allows things to heal and actually allows them to change shape in a way that's healthy. And so metaphorically, I don't think it's much different. So
beautiful. Well, the song "Need You Now" certainly is an amazing prayer. It definitely comes from a sincere place in your heart, and I definitely can tell that just by reading the words of the song. And we'd love to have you guys do that for us now, live in the studio. This is awesome.
I got my Justin and my James in here.
This is great.
Some of my favorite people. So yeah, here we go, guys.
1, 2, 3, 4.
and everybody's got a wound to be healed. I wanna believe there's beauty here. 'Cause oh, I get so tired of holding on. I can't let go, I can't move on. I wanna believe there's meaning here. How many times have you heard me cry out, God, please take this? How many times have you given me strength to just keep breathing? Oh, I need you, God, I need you now. Standing on a road I didn't plan, and wondering how I got to where I am. I'm trying to hear that still small voice. I'm trying to hear above the noise. How many times have you heard me cry out, God, please take this? How many times have you given me strength to just keep breathing? Oh, I need you, God, I need you now. Oh, I walk through the shadows, and I'm so afraid. Please stay right beside me with every single step I take. How many times have you heard me cry out? And how many times have you given me strength? How many times have you heard me cry out, God, please take this? How many times have you given me strength to just keep breathing? Oh, I need you, God, I need you now. Yeah, I need you now. Hey. Oh, I need you, God, I need you now. I need you now. I need you now.
Beautiful. That's Plumb. Thanks for being here. WGTS 91.9. Plumb in studio live with us.
Thank you.
Just heard Need You Now. And, when you're on tour, how does that work with your family? How is the family, by the way? 3 children, right?
They are great. Yeah, they usually come out. The bus tends to leave around midnight on like a Thursday, traditionally speaking, and so a lot of times they will meet up with us at the show. They don't ride on the bus right now just because of space, because there's 3 of them, and so 3 of them plus a husband takes up 4 bunks, and we actually need those for Mike's Chairs band. But they meet up with us, and sometimes they'll come home like the morning of Sunday or Monday, and we get home the next morning. So I'm not typically away from them for more than a day or two. And so this week's a little different. I'm away from them for 5 days. And that's, in our household, that's super long for me to be away from them. So I'm either not away from them for very long or not at all. And so they get to come out. And if they don't, my husband and I have the privilege of owning a Montessori school in Nashville. And so if they come out on the weekend, they miss Friday. If they don't come out, they stay home on Monday, and we have a family day. And so we've worked that out with their teachers.
Nice.
Montessori is a little bit different than the traditional school system, so there's some things you can do actually out on the road that keeps them from getting behind. And so it's just a huge blessing that was already in place, before I came back into the touring world. And so they get to be a part of this, and they're a huge part of it. So I'm really grateful.
Great.
Yeah.
What are their ages now?
I have 2 boys and a girl, and my son is 8.5, and my Solomon, and Oliver will be 7 next month, and then Clementine just turned 5 in July. So they're kind of like 5, 6.5, and 8, but technically they're like almost 20 months apart. So sometimes it's like 5 1/4 and 6 3/4, and something like that. But they'll tell you that they're like, well, she's 5 1/4, but I'm 6 7/8, or and just we have those conversations.
Oh, that's great. So, how do you juggle it all? I mean, I'm thinking, it's hard enough to juggle life normally without having to switch up your routine all the time.
Well, I get that question a lot, and I think it's probably more predominant because I'm female. Like, how do you juggle being a wife and a mother and an artist? Because I'm in a pretty predominantly male-driven culture in this realm. If you're a wife and a mom, people automatically assume, how do you do that? And I don't. When people say, how do you balance it? I don't. Activities change, and so it's not really like I have these full-grown kids and here's their constant routine and here's what my constant routine can be. I will say that prior to them being in kindergarten, 1st and 3rd grade, there was a lot more juggling. But now they're all 3 in school 5 days a week, and so that's a little bit of a more consistent thing to count on, where you're not trying to balance that as much. But I have an incredible community around me and an amazing husband, and just we have family close by, and so there's a lot of people that help me do that well. But I don't always do it perfectly, and so it's something that it's a constant, daily. Okay, let's look at the calendar and make sure we're being faithful to the story that we're wanting to tell. And it involves at least once a month I sit down with we have a dry erase board calendar, and I have to make a shameless plug. I didn't write this book, so I guess it's not shameless, but Patrick Lencioni wrote a book called 3 Questions for a Frantic Family. I think every human being on the earth should own it. It is not just for families. He speaks to Fortune 500 companies about how to manage their business well by identifying what their brand is, what makes them different than everything else, and has like these 7 steps to actually telling your story well and being faithful to what. Like if you're Southwest Airlines, then you're probably going to involve some comedy, and if you're Kroger, then you're this or that or the other. And so he decided to write a book for the management of the home, and it's narrowed down to 3 questions for your family. And so that book is a huge saving grace, but it involves getting a dry erase board, and you actually monthly look at your calendar. You write your mission statement out as a family, like who are we that makes us different than the people next door, so that we're telling our story faithfully. And then you actually, number 2 of those questions is, what's the number 1 priority in this home right now? It's not the only priority, but what's the most important thing right now? And it could be that somebody in your home is sick and everybody's going to rally around them to get them well. But then you put underneath that your foundations of things that have to be a constant daily thing. It could be exercising and staying out of debt and, spending time, blah, blah, blah. I mean, everybody's is different. And then the final question is, how are you going to do that? And he gives you like this little diagram, and I'm a visual learner, and so I have this diagram on a dry erase board in my kitchen that's constantly changing, and that it just kind of reminds you visually. And just we say it together as a family, like we'll read it aloud sometimes, of just what's our priorities here. And so one of ours is that mommy and daddy have date nights, that mommy and daddy have individual time with each of our kids, that we're having time to budget our checkbook and that we're spending time exercising. We're like just things like that, and we have to literally put it on the calendar for it to actually get there.
Great.
If you just, oh yeah, we're gonna do that, it won't happen.
It doesn't happen.
So I do that, which sounds like I must be superwoman, and we fail at it all the time. So that's why I say it's a juggling act every day. But I encourage, that was just a huge help to me, just as a human. When I read that book, the story is written in a really funny way, and it's a pretend couple that he's talking about, but you get into the story like you feel like you know these people, but they're telling a story that is more or less your life, and then you just have to fill in the blanks of where it's different for you. And it's changed our life, and it really has helped give us that balance. But you don't have to be a touring mom for that to relate to your family. So that's just, if someone's asking, what was the name of that book again? It's just called 3 Questions for a Frantic Family by Patrick Lencioni, and he's
awesome.
brilliant. And it's an easy read, it's a quick read, and if you'll actually go buy a dry erase board, it'll be worth your time.
Awesome.
That's kind of how I try to do it. Not how I do it, but how I try to do it.
I love that insight. I mean, that's just so cool. I love to see how other people do it, you know, and it's a constantly changing thing.
It's a constant, like, oh, I didn't figure it out yet. I just have a constant.
But that's great. Thank you for that advice. It's 1:49. We've been hanging out with Plumb. She's in concert tonight in Vienna. We've got information on our Facebook page if you want to check it out at WGTS 91.9.com. And we'll be back with her in just a few minutes. Right now, some music from OBB.
I think what OBB stands for is way cooler than OBB. It's like their name, Brothers Band. It's like,
Yes.
what's their last names?
Braxton or something. Braxton, maybe?
Almost.
That's a good question.
Or Bronson?
Next time we gotta go do it. When it's acoustic, it drags.
Yes.
Oh, that's not big. Yes.
To make sure we get all the notes right.
Well, that was me like faster, and then going, oh, here's not the right chord.
It's all right. How are we doing?
This good. That's good.
Oswald.
I was trying to do
Oswald
I couldn't
Brothers.
just like, and we can't do this with the headphones.
Oswald Brother Band.
Yeah.
You can hear
That's
me.
it.
That's why I took them off.
Oswald Brothers
There's like the
Band.
delay.
Oswald Brothers Band, and they're all
Yeah.
just
Hearing the
brothers. So I was like,
shaker.
that's
with the shaker.
Way to like it.
That's perfect. Like, yeah.
WGTS 91.9 with Josh Wilson and I Refuse. 156. He's going to be hanging out with you tonight too, right, Plum?
He is.
Yes, Plum in studio with us today, and thanks for hanging out with us in concert
this is
tonight.
fun. This is fun.
This is awesome. We've got a guitar here, or that's not a guitar, is
It's
it?
a ukulele.
Thank you. And we've got the drums. It's awesome.
And we have a shaker. What does the shaker look like to you?
That looks like a plum.
It is.
That is so cool.
Isn't that so cute?
Did somebody custom make that for you?
You know what? They didn't. But my maid of honor, one of my best friends, gave me one of these when I first signed as Plum, and I kept it for 15 years. And this summer, it got left at a festival in Charlotte, so she bought me another one. And
Oh,
so
nice.
It was like literally I had a team of people looking for it. I felt bad because like lots of different people were asking. Every band that had been at, there was like for King and Country and Mandisa and I forget who else. They were all asking like, did anybody go home with a plum shaker? And so yeah, Sanctus Real. Yeah, I felt kind of selfish because it was just a shaker, but it was special to me. And,
Yeah.
But this one's still special because it
15
came
years.
from her, and this is from her. So
That's a true friend.
it is. Well, she saw on Facebook that I posted. Man, if anybody that came to the show, like if they were on the edge of the stage and it had rolled off and they took it home, it was like, I'm not upset at you, but like, could I get it back? And and so she was like, so you lost the shaker, huh?
Find
So,
it on eBay somewhere for sale one of these days. Right?
oh man. But anyway, I have a new one, yeah, and it looks like a plum, so you can hear that.
That's great. Love it. And, we just appreciate you sharing your talent with us, too. And we're going to hear another one of your songs soon from your album. And I just love some of the song titles that you have on there.
Yeah.
Chocolate and Ice Cream. That sounds like my favorite.
Yeah, it's a fun song, really fun.
And then you have some deeper sounding songs, too, like Unlovable and I Don't Deserve You.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's, a lot to unravel.
There is a lot to unravel. I like the brand of Plum to always be willing to talk about the elephant in the room, the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Things that are a little uncomfortable, because I think that's where we grow and we change, when we're not super comfy.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those are about things like that.
We appreciate that about you for sure. And I know you've talked a little bit about your relationship with, in your marriage. And
Yeah.
tell us, can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, earlier you said God did a miracle in my life. So
He did.
I don't mind sharing that.
You had said something about thanks for sharing being willing to share my
Yeah.
story. And I don't really feel like it's mine. It's God's. Like, God did something through my life, and I would be amiss if I didn't give him the credit for that. My husband and I, 2 days after Christmas in 2011, separated for 6 months, and it was very unexpected, and it was devastating. And we were on the verge of divorce. And if you've been listening, you've probably heard that we have 3 small children, and so that added to that
Right.
of just, oh my goodness, single mother, what am I going to do? And marriages get broken together. It's never one person's fault.
Right.
And, one person might make a particular decision that kind of pushes it over the edge, but you both get there together. And so, for what it's worth, when I say, shockingly, like, there had been a lot of stuff that I had just kept kind of pretending would just not ever rear its ugly head in a bad way. It would just go away. And, but it didn't. And we were separated. And in that time, for those that might be listening that has a situation going on in your marriage that's really rocky and rough and hard, God is pro-marriage. And I think one of the best places for us to learn the relationship of Christ and his relationship with the church is through marriage. And in that time while we were separated, we read a book by Gary Thomas, and I didn't know he was reading it, and he didn't know that I was reading it. But it was called Sacred Marriage, and the whole premise of the book is to say, what if marriage wasn't about happiness, but it was about holiness? And it's not a book that says that, that God's calling you to a miserable marriage, but in a marriage where there's pain, and in a marriage where there's some suffering and there's some hardship and there's some conflict, there's an opportunity there to know God deeper.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for God to do something that could be used for his kingdom. And again, emphasizing that the book is not saying be miserable, but
Right.
at the same time, like, sometimes there's some suffering that has to happen before we can really know him the way that we should or that we could.
Right.
And it makes it worth it. And I don't think I don't think he caused our marriage or allowed our marriage
Right.
to suffer. I think one of the most beautiful gifts God's ever given us is choice. He doesn't make you love him. He doesn't.
Right.
He doesn't need you either, but he wants you. He wants you, and he gives you this choice. And I guess think about being married to someone that you have to be married to, and I'm sure that happens all over the world, but like where you have to love this person. That's not really all that romantic to feel like, if you imagined a switch on the back of your spouse and it was like you turned this switch that made them like you.
Right.
And it's like they're really only responding to a force. Like, it's not real.
Yeah.
And you want someone to want you, not just because they're made to. And so in our disconnect and in our separation, what I think God can do in those things, he can use them to draw us closer to him, and he can actually give us joy, because that's what's birthed from sorrow. And in that time, I hit rock bottom, absolute rock bottom. And I was telling someone earlier today that Matthew West has a song that says that's when we finally start looking up, when we
Right.
get there. And it's true. It is not just a lyric to a song. And in that state, it's funny how when something really important in your life is not going right, how it affects everything else. And we had a lot of plates spinning, my husband and I. We had a lot of good stuff going on, and I think good is the enemy of great. Good is enemy of what's best.
Right.
And it could be good that we did this, and good that we did this, and but it was all competing with, like, the best thing for our family. And we were overextended in every possible way. And really, because of that busyness and all of that, there was disconnect that we were too busy to even notice. And then the hammer fell, and it was devastating. And so, number one, Christian marriage and family therapist, we got connected with, and God used her in an amazing, amazing way.
That's great.
And then a community of people that loved us They didn't love Jeremy and they didn't love Tiffany. They loved us. And any relationship that we came in contact with that was more on my side or his side, we promised our counselor that we would hold those people at arm's length.
Wow.
Because you don't need a girlfriend saying, girl,
Oh, yeah.
he is such a jerk. You
Yeah.
should totally leave him.
Right.
You don't need her. Like, it might hurt her feelings, but your marriage is more important than her feelings. And so I had to put some friendships out on the fringe and say, I know you mean well, but that's not what I need. I need to hear someone say, Tiffany, you have some things to work on. I love you, and I love Jeremy, and I want you guys together. And this isn't all his fault, and this isn't all your fault, but it's both of your faults. And hard truth, friends that will speak hard truth. And so a community that's for you. And then, as I mentioned, there's some great books, Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas and Tim Keller's The Meaning of Marriage, like both of which are really amazing books that change you and challenge you. And the list goes on, but I think the most important thing was being willing to do whatever it took. And in that state of desperation, I said, I'll do whatever you ask. I'll do whatever it takes. And God asked me to be quiet. And over and over, I kept hearing James 1:19, be slow to speak and quick to listen. And it was like God was just lovingly saying, would you just get out of my way and be quiet and just do what I ask you to do? And there's things I had to change. And you can't change your spouse. Newsflash, you can't. But you can change you.
Right.
And in God changing me, that inspired my husband. If he was here today, he would tell you that when he saw me doing things that he knew was hard for me to do, he knew that I was trying.
Wow.
And that was inspiring to him, and it made him kind of want to try to change some things that maybe he should try, as opposed to me saying, you know what? The reason we're broken is because you're not patient.
Right.
And the reason we're broken is because blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's not inspiring to have a finger in your face.
That's true.
It's more inspiring to have an arm around you that says, you can do this. You're good enough to do this. And so God used people like Justin and Trish, and God used people like Rick and Sammy, and God used people like Melissa and Tim, and like I can name personal people that just wrapped their arms around me and said, I love you so much. You talk too much. I love you so much, but sometimes you're really selfish. And I love you like more than probably myself, but you're really hard to be friends with sometimes.
Wow.
And those are more valuable than gold.
Yes,
to
right.
have a friend that loves you enough to say that.
Right.
And my husband had a friend that the morning I called he and his wife. I love this story because of the power of community in it. But I called them. It was about 6 a.m. because I couldn't sleep because we had just separated that night prior. And his wife, he answered the phone, and I told him, he was like, what's going on? It's really early. Are you okay? And I said, no. Jeremy and I separated last night.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, just dead silence. And I heard like this heaving sound. And then his wife took the phone and she was like, Tiff, is everything okay? Like, Ricky's vomiting.
Oh, no.
And I said, I just told him that Jeremy and I just separated. And he responded. His immediate response was as if I had just told him my husband had been killed, because he's one of his best friends.
Wow.
And it hit him like, to have people that love you enough that the thought of you straying from who God's created you to be makes them vomit. That's rich. That's amazing. And she was like, it made him sick, so sick to his stomach, like you had just said that there's been death. And I was like, well, there has been a death. There has been a kind of death.
Yeah.
And those are the friendships that we had. And I think that's, God used that. So I
That's
don't want anyone
huge.
out there that doesn't have amazing friends like that to think you're set up for failure. I think God will provide those friendships. He will put those relationships in your life. If you're willing to do whatever it takes, he will put them there. And so,
that's awesome.
but yeah, I could talk about it forever, but like as fast forward 6 months, we held hands for the first time, and God had done a miracle, and I could go for hours just about the beauty of all that. But we reconciled, and 1 year later, we were going out on a date to celebrate that, and
Wow.
he surprised me with a
How
wedding.
neat.
So
Wow.
we remarried all over. It was literally set up in the palm tree and the whole 9 yards,
Wow.
and I had no idea. And so he was like, let's just do this all over again. So,
Nice.
and I want to throw out there,
Beautiful.
before I forget, if you relate to my story and you have young children, keep them out of it. I think it's incredibly selfish to bring your children into something that's not theirs to own. And sometimes your kids are old enough that you can't keep them completely isolated. But
Right.
we just told our, at the time, 3, 5, and 7-year-olds that, you know, Daddy's working on a project, and we promised to not say anything negative about each other, and we never did.
Wow.
We just, oh, well, why haven't we hung out as a family? I'm like, oh, we've just been really busy, you know, just really busy in that project.
Wow.
And, you know, I remember that first morning that we woke up in the same bed, and they're, you know, one by one in their little pajamas and stinky breath, you know, walking in our room. And my oldest was like, is that project over? And we just lost it. And we thought he can imagine whatever he wants right now, why his parents are crying. But they just know that there was a project. And
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, when there's no going back, you can't obviously protect
Right.
them from that. But,
Yeah.
but if there is even the slightest skosh of hope, which I believe there always is,
Right.
you're doing a huge disservice to your kids to bring them into that and say, well, you know, your dad, blah, 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 or your mom such a this or that. You're actually not loving your children by doing that, because you're hurting them. And I'm just, and I don't have like this deep pool from, you know, wisdom from which to pull from. I had a great marriage and family therapist that told us that the very first time, do
That's
not
awesome.
bring your kids into this if you can help it. So there's insight
Yeah,
from
that's
Plumb.
that's great. No, that's an awesome promise that you were able to make to each other and to keep.
Well, we love our kids.
It's not
and
easy.
regardless of how we felt about each other, we love our kids. and
Right. Was the best
so,
thing for them.
Yeah.
Plum joining us today. She's in concert tonight in Vienna on her tour, Need You Now, and along with Josh Wilson and
Mike's Chair.
Mike's Chair, thank
Yeah.
you. And we've got information about that concert too if you want to check it out at WGTS919.com. On our Facebook link, you can check it out. And we'll be back in just a minute. We're going to hear one of your other songs from your album, One
Yeah.
Drop, right? We'll be coming up in just a minute.
I love this song.
I do too. Isn't it awesome?
She's friends with Ariel and I, but I just love the song even if I didn't know her. Can you hear it?
Let's open that door. Let's marry in here.
Stop sign.
I
watching
love the
people
fact that
drive
she
by.
is so-
T-Mac
That was
on the
awesome. That was really
radio.
Good job. That's awesome. Thank you.
I know. Yes, thank you.
When you backing out,
WGTS 91.9 Plumb joining us today. You can join us too online for live streaming at WGTS919.com. Plumb in concert tonight in Vienna too. And it's such a treat to have you here with all of your instruments and the band and everything. We
Yes,
got
it
to hear
is.
Need You Now earlier. We got to get the Plumb shaker.
Dropped it.
And it's kind of dark. Did you find it? Okay, we got, oh dear. There we go.
My goodness. I'm a hot mess right now.
You're fine. You're doing just fine. Well, so you've got another song that you were going to do for us too. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this one in particular?
Yeah, I would love to. One Drop is a happy song that just basically says it starts with one drop and that leads to 2 and that leads to 10 million, and that there's an ocean overflowing with hope. And sometimes we just don't think there's any, but there's always an ocean overflowing with it. We just can't always see it. And it starts with just getting that one drop. And if, you know, for somebody, it might just represent metaphorically one drop, but at the same time, it's just one breath or one day or 1 week or 1 year that you have to kind of get through. And you get on the other side of that, and it grows exponentially. And there's just this, oh my goodness, this is... And I think of even in comparing it to my marriage of feeling hopeless, but nothing is ever truly hopeless. And so at that little breaking point when I saw a difference in him and he saw a difference in me, and there's hope. Nothing's fixed yet, but you know, yesterday I thought this was hopeless, but today there's actually a little bit of hope, and that grew into an ocean of that, and actually restored a family. And so
Awesome.
I just think a little bit of good turns into a whole lot of great, and I think we're better together as a community, as a married couple, as whatever. You can be good by yourself, but you can be great as the church, or you can be great as a marriage, or even as an organization. And so it's just all about hope, and in a really happy, jingly kind of way.
Awesome.
And if you can't perform a song with a ukulele and it be sad. Like, I think we should write a song on ukulele that's sad.
just to see if it can be done.
See, that's still kind of happy what you're doing. I don't know.
That's awesome, and I love the statement. You just said something that was really deep. You said sometimes it feels like there's no hope, but there always is.
Right, there is.
Love that.
There is always, always, always hope. No matter what somebody tells you or you think, there is always hope.
And this song is One Drop,
It
right?
is. It just starts with one drop of it. So if you need some hope, here's your drop. I need you, and you need me. Left alone, we will never be who we could be. So take my hand and don't forget that we can do anything together. Oh, 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 oh. Just one drop of your love, a single ray of sun, just one thing to change the world. It's just you and me, starting with a dream and giving it all we've got. Only takes one drop. Oh, oh, oh. 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 Come with me now. Look and see how there's an ocean overflowing with our hopes. So let's jump in and take a swim. It's you and me, yeah, forever. Oh, 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 oh. Just one drop of your love, a single ray of sun, just one thing to change the world. It's just you and me, starting with a dream and giving it all we've got. Only takes one drop. Oh, oh, oh. 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 I need you and you need me. We can do anything together. Sing it. Oh, 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 oh. Just one drop of your love, a single ray of sun, just one thing to change the world. It's just you and me, starting with a dream and giving it all we've got. Only takes one drop. Oh, oh, oh. Only takes one drop. Oh, oh, oh. Only takes one drop. Oh, oh, oh. Only takes one drop. Oh, oh, oh.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's Plumb with One Drop. It's 2:20, and thanks for hanging out with us. I know you guys have to hit the road pretty soon. You've got to
We
go to
do.
Baltimore, and then you got to go to Vienna tonight. Vienna, the concert.
Yes.
We've got the information on our Facebook page if folks want to find out more about it.
Come out, wherever you are.
Sounds like a lot of fun. It's at WGTS 91.9.com if you want to find out more. And you can watch live streaming, well, now that we're done, but you can watch the performance that you just heard of the last couple of songs, too.
You might even be able to watch me drop the Plumb shaker and search for it under the pit of despair down here.
But you found it.
I did.
It's here. You're all set for concert tonight.
I will have it on stage with me tonight.
So if you want to find out more about that, you can check it out at WGTS919.com. And thanks again for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having us. We loved it.
You might be Very good.
Thank you.
It's gone.
Thank you.
It fell in that hole.
Thanks, guys. That was awesome.
We'll mail it to you.
Water.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah. It was like beep, boom.
Oh, the lid. Oh yeah, don't even worry about it.
Gina, look good, buddy.
That's a lot.
We got other record companies tweeting us going,
Oh, really?
Oh.
Word Entertainment was like, how come artists don't get to do that? I'm like, oh, here we go.
Oh, now we've set the precedent now.
The other record label.